Welcome to our first show, Many Colors of Love. Our guest today is well-known Boston poetess Sunayana Kachroo. She has written lyrics for several Bollywood and Hindi movies, and also she has published a book of poetry. We are going to talk today about love, and by love, I mean romantic love, and that's why romantic love also has many colors. So we are going to call this series Many Colors of Love. And just to frame our discussion, we are going to touch on 4 questions. Number 1 is, in one sentence or less, how can you describe love? How can you define love? How does one know when love is true? Can you love someone if you don't love yourself? 4th one is, can you love if you were never shown enough love as a child? And the 5th, but a controversial question is, are you fit to love? So Sunayana, let's start with you. And one thing also I want to make it very clear in the beginning, that one of the reasons I thought of starting this series with you, because I have read many of your poems, and one thing I have noticed that's, and again, this is not to flatter you, but the way Guljar or Sahil Ludhianvi, how they look at very little smaller things, and they are able to, because of their keen sense of observation, they are able to turn them into a beautiful poetry. And whenever I read your poems, I often see that the traces of those qualities of Guljar and Sahil Ludhianvi in your poem and in your observation. So that's why you are on the show, and welcome to Many Colors of Love. And let's start with your take on love. Can you describe love?
Thank you so much for having me. And I know we had this conversation has been in works for a very long time.
Long time, yes.
Very long time, yeah. So, but sometimes we can't decide when it's meant to happen, it happens. So today is the day this is meant to happen. So thank you for that. Coming to the question that you asked me, that can we define love or describe love in a sentence or something? Since you are someone who has a very beautiful garden, you tend to your roses and stuff like that. I think it's very difficult. That's the point I want to say. It's very difficult to encompass something so vast in a sentence, and it would be like me asking you that when you are in your garden and you're smelling flowers, or the fragrance of nature, can you define to me how that is? Can you define the fragrance? Because is love the flower or is love the fragrance, right? So it's very difficult to encompass that in a very small sentence. And also, so there are 2 problems with this. One is that how do you put it together in a sentence? The second thing is, which I have now realized, probably I would not have said this 10 years back, is that I have realized that my own understanding and definition of love keeps changing. जो मुझे आज लगता है कि हाँ यही प्यार है, next in few years or few moments I'll feel that not really, this is probably this. So I think
I just want to interrupt you. Just keep in mind that we are talking about romantic love. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Even that. Yeah, even that. Like, as Gulzar Sahab rightly said, कि प्यार को प्यार ही रहने दो, कोई नाम ना दो, right? In one of his songs he has said. So it's very difficult. But I think in whatever words I can probably encompass it, I can say it's probably synergy between different things. It's a synergy that you feel. Sometimes it has nothing to do with the other person. It is just what you feel. But then it's still a synergy. That's how I would probably, at this moment, this is what I feel. I may have a different answer tomorrow.
Well, I want to say one thing, since you asked me that question about love, in terms of gardening, is it the fragrance or what it is? And I will define love as, as an experience. This is an experience. And that's why there cannot be one definition or description of love. Because if you look till now, since the human race started, maybe 8, 9, 10 billion people have been born. And all these people have a different experience of love
Right.
as themselves, as well as other people. And many billions or trillions of people will be born in the future. So everybody will have their own, and that's the beauty of love, because it is your experience, you have to experience it, it is an energy. And then also you see that, real, right from, the mythology till today, you go through history, and poets and writers and filmmakers and gods and goddesses, everybody talks about love. And still we have not reached a conclusion. And that's why, again, two of us are trying to find out what exactly it is. So
Yeah, I
now,
think one of the reasons for when we had talked probably a couple of years back that we should do something, um, for me, the interesting part about this conversation was because you are well versed compared to me, well versed with the mythology, and you look at those stories from a very dispassionate view, just understand the characters as you understand them. So I was very interested to understand that are there stories in mythology that interest you? Because, for example, when somebody asks me, my to go place is literature or film songs or some movie that I have seen or dialogues in the movies or something I read. But probably for you in mythology, there could be some character that interested you. So
well,
I'm
actually,
interested
if
to know
you,
that.
if you go in mythology, and the first couple in love is Lord Shiva and
Okay.
Sati. And Sati was before Parvati, right? So the story basically goes is, and the love is absolutely, it has doesn't have one single straightforward line. It's crazy. It's the euphoria. It is passion. When you fall in love, you don't see anything else. This is all you want to experience. And this was very well, I think that the first couple in love was, if you go by mythology or imagination, was Shiva and Sati. So now
Okay.
Shiva was a hermit, living in jungle, having snakes around. And then uh, Sati is the granddaughter of Brahma, daughter of Prajapati, who is asked to create, the world and populate the world. And his many daughters, the youngest daughter is Sati, whom he loves a lot. And then Sati falls in love with Shiva. And he absolutely hates that. He does not want his daughter to be married to a guy like Shiva, who is living in jungles, having snakes around, doesn't wear, right clothes, and has nothing. But she is very adamant that no, I have to marry Shiva.
Okay.
And then finally, because of her insistence, father agrees to marry Shiva. And then, since the marriage takes place against real heart consent by father, then they get married. And then one day, to insult Shiva and to teach him a lesson, her father hosts a big yagya. And intentionally, he does not invite, he invites everybody, but he doesn't invite Shiva.
Okay.
And then, we see it all the time in family dynamics, even today. I will not do this, and we see in a very close family unit as well, I want to teach a lesson. So Shiva's father-in-law says that, no, I'm not going to invite him. Then, then Parvati, comes to the ceremony. And when he finds that her husband is being insulted, she becomes so furious that she sacrifices herself in front of everybody.
Hmm.
And then Shiva finds out. And even think about that, like a god like Shiva, who once he finds out, he sends his troops to destroy everything. In the end, he comes. And think about, we talk about, so there is no reason in love. When he comes, he picks up the dead body of Sati, puts on his shoulders, and because he's so much in love as well and attached, and he just goes around, and it creates a lot of chaos in the world. Finally, one of the gods cut the Parvati's dead body, and then he calms down, and then he goes in meditation. So this is,
Hmm.
if you really see that even at that concept, even in mythology, if you look at the first couple in love, this is how love is. And that passion, the concept has even not changed today.
Hmm.
And you see in Mahabharata, Draupadi is another perfect example of mythological love. And see again, that, and then I have some more questions for you, but I wanted to complete the thought of mythology. So sometimes when you look for love, of course you are looking for everything in the person you fall in love. And it does happen that if you are very lucky, you are going to meet that person, and that person has everything that you wanted. And that's why after that, your life is not the same.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, but sometimes it does not happen that you fall in love with somebody and you have few qualities, but not everything, you get disappointed. And this also, if you look in the mythological context, the love story of Parvati is very interesting because it is very unconventional. And again, she is doing all these worshiping Lord Shiva, and Shiva is very happy. And he asked her that, okay, what do you want? So she is wishing for husband who is, who believes in dharma. She wants a husband who is very brave. She wants a husband who is very powerful. She wants a husband who is, loves the nature and animals. All these things she listed. And Shiva says that sure, you will get all those things. And then, of course, it is impossible to find one person, whether a man or woman, who has all these qualities. So in the next time she is born, she is given the 5 husbands because one person just could not have all those qualities.
Right.
Now the question is, Carl Jung, the psychologist, had really defined it so well, and he had said that, when you meet somebody you really like, you really fall in love, there is a complete chemical transformation between these two people, and then after that, these people are never the same. And we
Yeah.
do see it happening. It's not an imaginary thing. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was my long question,
So,
long
so
answer to.
on that, I would like to share this one of my favorite stories about Krishna. I have actually explored it in my poetry in my next book that's hopefully going to come this year. My English book, book of poetry called Sunny Side Up. So in
Mhm.
that, there is a poem which I had actually read an article by filmmaker. It's a short story by filmmaker Vikram Bhatt, and inspired me. And so the story goes that Rukmini is now the wife of Krishna. She comes to know that Krishna used to play flute at one point. But he doesn't play flute anymore. So she feels a little jealous, and she goes to Krishna and says that, I heard that you used to play flute, and can you play it for me? I would love that. And he says, no, I don't play it anymore. And she kind of insists. She gets angry. There's a confrontation between the two. And Krishna says that, what, I don't even have my I don't play flute. My flute is with Radha. When I left, I gave it to her, and after that I decided I'm never going to play flute again. So she insists that, no, 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 I want you to play flute for me, because somewhere she feels that, this is something special he had for Radha. Why doesn't he have it for me?
Mhm.
Now, Krishna tells her that, see, the thing is that when you fall in love for first time, which I think happened probably between Krishna and Radha, it was the first love for both of them. He says that you feel that if this person leaves me, I'm going to die. Now, what happens is that in some cases, when that person leaves for whatever the reasons are, and you realize that you did not die, right? After that, that first feeling of, that vulnerability never happens, because you
Mhm.
know that you survived it once. So he tells Rukmini that that is how I can bring the flute, I can play the notes, but how do I make myself that Krishna was so vulnerable at that time when I was with Radha? So he says, but if you insist and if it makes you happy, let's go. And she says, okay, okay, don't get angry. If you get angry, I will die.
Mhm.
So, so for probably for Rukmini, he was the first love, and probably for Krishna and Radha, they were first love of each other. And as you said, I'm bringing this to I'm bringing this point is because you said there is a chemical transformation happens within that person as well, whosoever experiences it, and then it kind of freezes, as you said, that you find somebody, or probably like you were giving example of Shiva and Parvati, that once they saw each other, then it's very difficult to reproduce. It's very difficult to, you kind of freeze. That's your first taste of something like that, and you freeze in that moment. Then you're kind of chasing that for rest of your life. Now, whether, as you said, that you meet that person, and if you get to marry them or you spend your rest of life with them, that is a that is an area where it's very kind of debatable for me, because I also understand, I've seen that with a lot of people, is that, and I'm not going to say that with everyone, I'm just saying few people, um, in some cases rather, is that when life वो जिंदगी जब जख्म देती है, which I'm not saying in a negative way, just वक्त के सितम हम कहते हैं, when that happens you change. Now what I was in my 20s and what somebody who may have met me in my 20s, I'm not the same person anymore. So can you sustain that? That's a different point. And
Well,
when are we confusing the idea of love with the idea of relationship? Those are two different things.
I think, yeah, absolutely, there are two. And, the love also grows up after this, and it also changes. But I think that basic chemistry which Carl Jung talks about, that doesn't change. That stays, that gets frozen. And that's what, at least my understanding is that. Now, so the answer to the first question is that it is almost impossible to define and describe love. We cannot do that.
You can describe it at a point, but you cannot say this is what it will be forever. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And because this experience is totally different from every individual born in this universe.
Yeah.
Now, let's come to the second question. And second question is, how does one know when love is true? Because sometimes we get, we get a wrong idea. Sometimes we falsely fall in love. We think, that, okay, you are in love, but it may be some infatuation or some crush or something like that. So how is there any, in your experience or your reading, is there any way to find out that, okay, I'm truly in love?
Yeah, how does one know? I see, my way of I'm not just saying about love generally, is that I let, like, for example, if something great happens in my life, right, something exceptionally great, I don't react right away. I just let it, I absorb it, I let it inundate me. I let it like, for example, if I'm working with someone that I've been always wanting to work, or I meet someone like that, or somebody that I've been wanting to meet for a long time, and I also meet them, or I read something great and I'm like, wow, this is what I wanted to. It kind of impresses me, or something great happens.
I think let us confine to love part.
No, I'm just saying that even see, you can't, how do you say, so I think I have a problem with that, confining to love, because how do you say, oh, this is love and this is not love? So I think love is a veil of everything, a mixture of everything. In that I cannot surgically say, oh, this is love, this is not love. At least that's how I operate. So I think, okay, I think I know what I want to say right now.
I put you on the spot here, but let's see.
I'm trying to find, because my mind is always very chaotic with ideas. So probably when I was in my teens, or maybe in early 20s, love would have probably, I would have said, oh, this is love, would have been somebody saying that to me, saying those words to me, saying, giving you a gift, or remembering your birthday, or keeping your secrets, something like that. Now, as you transition, as I've grown over the years, I've realized sometimes love for me now could be somebody making a cup of tea, knowing what I want, knowing what really takes me, or knowing, or giving me respect. So if you ask me today, somehow I've come to the point where respect has taken a precedence over love. Or maybe for me now, respect is, if someone respects me, I feel, in romantic sense, that's what love means to me. Because there's a line in a song, which says that तेरे मेरे बीच में कोई भी हम एक दूजे तेरे मेरे बीच में कोई भी पिंजरा ना हो, एक दूसरे पे अपना हक तो हो, कब्जा ना हो. So I kind of like that. I've liked it over the years, that when I got married, my husband said that, don't try to make your friends my friends, my friends your friends. You keep your friends, I keep my friends. Now organically we'll have friends that are friends to both of us. I found it very strange at that time, but now over the years I've realized that we all, for me, love is freedom also. letting me be who I am. If somebody curbs that, at one point, sometimes I thought, being jealous is being love, being jealous is being passionate. Now I don't think like that.
Yeah.
So,
Now, just one
how do I
question.
know?
So,
I don't know.
Sunayana, so you had a love marriage or arranged marriage?
It was a love marriage.
It was love marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
So now on this one, I always say, and I truly believe into this, is that, you are very lucky to fall in love, right? First time or whenever it is, you were very lucky. And then you are luckier than that you fall in love with somebody and you marry that person. And you are luckier than that person that you fall in love, marry that person, and stay in the same love forever.
Yeah, but then again here, I wanted to say was that, for example, like there are two sand dunes, right, in the desert, right? So let's say two individuals who are married are like two sand dunes. Can you say that this is what is between two of them? Because sand dunes keep changing, the wind changes, their direction changes, the distance between sand dunes changes. So it's very difficult to kind of say this is a lucky person versus this is not a lucky person. But I think the essence of what is between two sand dunes is the sand, is probably essence of relationship between two people. If that does not change, then it's fine. As I'm on my path, which also includes my dreams, what am I doing as a person, what actually I like. My husband is also on his path. Probably somebody else is on their path as a couple. I think in that journey we are two travelers that are traveling together, and we can create this environment where we are both create a conducive environment where we both can grow. Now that doesn't mean it's always hunky dory, that doesn't mean that there are no conflicts, that doesn't mean there are no disagreements.
Okay, so again, one short answer that how do you know that? You said respect, you
Yeah,
mentioned
right now,
freedom.
yeah, I think of it now. So yeah, I actually don't know how to answer that. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe I can write a poem on that. Yeah,
Okay.
this
How
is.
to how to know? Well, I have my own theory about this,
So okay,
since
I think since you're asking me this question, I think you have something. Why don't you tell me? What do you think?
well, I think that when you become nothing contains your happiness. There is nothing, you are full of energy. You are full of an inner excitement where you don't need anything else. When you are, and this is I'm talking about a very euphoric love. At
Euphoric,
least
yeah.
the first time that you want to go and sleep, you cannot sleep, you cannot do anything, you cannot even, all you want to be left alone and in a garden or just being by yourself and thinking, imagining, fabricating the whole world in your mind, about everything. When that happens to you, then at least this is the first indicator that really this is that you are falling in love. Of course, and this type of energy and this type of euphoria does not happen with everybody. It does not happen, even if sometimes you get romantically attracted to somebody, but even then it doesn't happen. You have infatuation with somebody, even then it doesn't happen. This type of the inner thing comes only after you have truly fallen in love, falling in love at the first sight, that something happens, again going back to Carl Jung, that it totally transforms yourself. If that happens, then you have got a very good indicator that what, it feels like that I'm really in love now.
Yeah.
You
So you're
cannot.
saying that, yeah. So you're saying that you uh, probably makes you feel good about yourself, actually, right? That's what
It
something.
makes it that in every aspect, and then also the only desire you have it, you just want to be with that person.
Hmm.
You just want to be, spend time with the person. You want that person to be happy. You want that person to be free. You want to do everything possible in your thing you can do so that nothing happens. That person is never sad. Once you get that feeling for anybody, then you think that, this is really, and there's no conditions. That's the one thing I always, this is the second indicator is that when you really truly love somebody, there's no conditions. The moment you bring any type of condition, whether it's a person dressing should dress such a way, behave such a way, should have a status, any type of condition, even 0.01% condition you put, it is totally complete freedom. I think that Tagore has really defined it so well. Many years ago when I read one of his poems, he said that the love is freedom. And at that time, I thought,
Yeah.
no, how love can be freedom? Love is possession, love is jealousy, love is that you have the complete control. But Tagore was absolutely right. Now at this age, I can say that, my God, yeah, really, this is what exactly it is. So
Yeah,
the person
I
you
would
love,
agree.
huh?
I would agree to that. I would agree to that. Love is freedom.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just lets you do what only role your can be that, okay, what you can do to increase that freedom and make that person do more what the person wants to do.
Yeah, it
There's no
should be, as I
control.
said, I mean, yes, freedom, but at least, I had asked Vishal Bharadwaj, the composer, director, that, how does it, because his wife is a singer and they collaborate all the time. So I'm always interested in knowing such, how do they manage it? Because I find it's very difficult. Then he said that his wife is his most fierce critique, but most loyalist as well. She's his biggest loyalist, but biggest critic also. So sometimes when we are saying freedom, does that also have the freedom to critique? Does that also include the freedom to kind of tell you, hey, I think this is wrong, have disagreements? You said that if you fall in love with someone, you want to be with them all the time or as much as possible. But that person, let's say that you had that feeling once you meet them again, they may be a different person. They may have that, at that moment when you first had that synergy with them, that will change. Now when you're saying it's unconditional, that also should encompass that, including you in all your ways, and you being in all your how do I say, in different situations, and them also being in their different situations. Is that even sustainable? I think it's very difficult to kind of contain that for a long period. Yes, initially, yes, I agree that synergy has to be felt. You probably have to feel good about yourself, and for me that's very important, that when I am with somebody, um, if that person makes me feel good about myself, then I can probably say that, yeah, this is probably love.
Okay, so now this actually really leads to our the next question is, uh, can you love someone if you don't love yourself? Yeah, it's
Hmm.
a very fundamental question.
Yeah, I like putting oxygen mask first in on yourself when you're in a plane versus putting it on someone, something like that probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the most misunderstood concept that people always, sometimes people pretend, oh, I sacrificed this for you, I did that for you, I did all these things. People come, but then you find that, and if that person doesn't love himself or herself, I think it is almost impossible that that person can love anybody else. So first you have to learn to appreciate yourself, love yourself, build your
That is
own.
that is very, but that's very hard, Upendra. I think um, I think a lot of things are also depend on how you are raised. If you are raised like that, where you're being taught that, hey, be strong, love yourself, then I sometimes feel that's really great, because that's the best thing you can teach someone. To rather than chasing happiness, which is so fleeting, choose joy, which is very internal feeling in my thought, that joy is a very internal feeling. Happiness is good, but it's very fleeting. It's like Diwali pe hum wo anar lagate hain na, acha lagta hai because it goes like this. But it doesn't last long. Like versus you're lighting an agarbatti incense stick, it lasts longer. So joy to me is like that. But um, uh, and probably you loving yourself is like that. It's probably the joy that you will have. However, I think it's very difficult sometimes. I struggle with that a lot, loving myself first and then uh, giving to others. But I understand, and I think that is what is the crux of many self-help books. Also is the crux of many uh, what we read in Vedas, and that it's a lot of our struggles are a struggle of internal journey.
Yeah,
So
true.
right,
Yeah,
right. So yes, I definitely in principle agree with you that you have to first love yourself to kind of fill yourself up. So that kind of in some ways also I used to feel, oh, it's very selfish to say that, why how can you not, why can't you give to others what you don't have? But in terms of, I mean, I understand the philosophy of what you're saying, that you cannot give what you don't have.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
Empty part cannot fill another
yeah,
empty part.
I've seen that with a lot of people who have trust issues, I've realized that they themselves uh, have either had experiences where they have not been trusted, so they don't trust anybody, or they themselves cannot be trusted. I have seen that with a lot of people, that when they have trust issues, it's just that they can't trust anyone. It also means that they cannot be trusted. So you
Yeah,
cannot give to others what you don't have.
sure.
I definitely believe in.
Actually, the one thing I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about love, I think the trust is another. Trust and faith are these two other very important pillars of love as well. If there is a love, real love, there is always trust, there is always faith. These two things are, I think, very, very strong pillars of that. Anyway, this brings to our next question: is that can you love someone if you were never shown love in your enough love in your childhood?
So I know in earlier in the when you introduced the concept of what we're going to do today, when you said that, I was like, oh my God, what, like, how am I going to? It's a very tricky question, is how I see it. It's very,
But it is also a very real question too, because we
it is, yeah, it is.
uh,
So
we
I think since you came up with that question and you had said that it's going to be a conversation, so I would like to ask you, what do you think about that?
I think that it is true that if you are not, again, it comes back to our previous question, that if you do not love yourself, how you can love somebody else. It comes to the same thing that if you have not been loved as a child in a childhood or not shown enough love, then it is going to be difficult to really love someone because you really have not seen that. You have not really experienced it. And you can love somebody, but unless you experience, what really makes life wonderful and what makes us truly ourselves, that, oh, I want to be who I am. And only I can do if I have experienced that. So if I have not experienced that, yes, there will be issue. But but I also believe that love is also a learned behavior
Right.
that we also we assume that, oh, we know how to love, but many times we have that in our DNA. We know the core value of this, but sometimes we don't know how to love. Sometimes we don't know how to express, and this is where the family or the partner you are loving can make a big difference, as long as you don't get offended by somebody trying to teach you how to love, as long as you are open mind, you are open to this. So yes, it can be initially a hurdle, but you can always overcome, because once you understand love, then it is so empowering that you are willing to do anything to really have this experience. That will be my take on that.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you on that. Um, when you're a child, when you're in your early life phase of your life, your role models are your family, your parents, people who surround you, your relatives, probably your cousins, your friends. So these that forms your safety net, or that forms your inner core of your life, and that is the time when a lot of your ideas are set in some ways. Like, for example, my dad always taught me that, be very clear of what you want to say, be very clear of presenting your point of view, don't be scared to do that. And I now whenever I'm in a situation, I always think of that, because it was very clearly set into my brain that this is how you should be. Now I also understand that there are a lot of people where, in their the environment is such, they're in very big families where a lot of love may not be given in the way you expected. In many families, love means giving you food, right? In
Sure.
many families, love means that somebody किसी ने आपके shirt का button ठीक कर लिया, as a somebody, something like that. Now or in some families, when they had, the kids are exposed to a lot of violence, right? So when that happens, or their parents are separated or something like that, so they're not
Okay.
with their parents, so in such cases, their definitions of love is not inside the house, it's outside, right? So they're always seeking validation from outside.
So now let's talk about that, the romantic love in the context of Indian culture, for example. So many times we see, because there are so many rules in India, that you cannot fall in love with a person of another religion. You cannot, even in the same religion, you cannot fall in love with, cannot marry somebody from the different caste. There's everywhere your life is really regulated. And I think that that type of system and culture really stifles love. It doesn't let, because love is, you see somebody and you like and you fall in love and all those things. So generally people are not very open-minded, because they're always concerned about the societal and the community and religious and family rules, etc. And one way to learn love in India has been through Bollywood movies, frankly speaking, or through literature, because that's the place where for the first time, because they have not experienced, but on the screen, they're able to see this. In
Right,
literature, in novels and all, they're able to read.
right,
Poetry, they're
right,
able to read. But I think the
right,
Bollywood has played a very important role in
right.
making people realize. Again, Bollywood also has its own formula of love and etc. So let's talk a little bit about from that angle.
Sure, sure. So I completely agree with you that, for initially, um, your what love is comes from literature, if they agar ghar mein hai waisa mahol, or it comes from movies, right? So I mean, think about this. I was just thinking about it the other day, that maybe 20 years back, a lot of love songs were about, actually were promoting eve teasing, कि लड़की के पीछे जाओ, ये करो, वो करो, and then the girl all of a sudden falls in love with the boy, right? So
Mhm.
you're like, oh, maybe this is love. Oh, maybe, a lot of guys were used to think that usko chedo until she gives in, something like that.
Mhm.
Now, we are not so, even from the perspective of Hindi film industry, that's not how songs are written right now. That's not what poetry is all about right now. Now the context has changed. Uh, people are breaking these rules of caste, religion. Um,
Yeah, now it
Also,
is happening. It's a good change. Yes, it's a great change. Yeah,
it is a
correct. Sure.
great change, and a lot of people are, you won't believe, I mean, I'm surprised when I go to India often. So um, in terms of marriage, a lot of youngsters are not even going for marriage nowadays. They're like, I will, when it happens, it happens. So वो जो एक था कि भाई ये उम्र में ही शादी करनी है, ये उम्र में ये होना चाहिए, now people are actually breaking, but that's happening in cities. In villages, things are definitely different, and probably
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
still it, and probably it's still what you defined, ki what you described, that आपकी कास्ट में ही होना चाहिए, आपके रिलीजन में होना चाहिए, and probably गोरी लड़की ही होनी चाहिए, things like that's
Sure.
still happening. And because uh, in those areas, love is basically getting married to someone. That's what they think.
Okay. Well, so now we are coming towards the end, because time just, so we might have to do another session sometime. But let's talk a little bit about the poetry and Bollywood. And, and I would love to take your opinion about some of the favorite love poems of Guljar and Said Ludhianvi. Which, will,
So uh, Gulzar Sahab's one, Sahil Ludhianvi, I think you should be telling me, but um, what has happened is that, um, for me, um, his best poem, song, whatever you want to say, which I like, is actually not about love, is about how to gracefully exit a relationship.
Mhm.
So it's kind of
That's a great, yeah, exactly.
so which is चलो एक बार फिर से अजनबी बन जाएं हम दोनों.
Banjan, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I absolutely love it, and I think it's a gold standard of, if you want to exit a relationship, वो तमीज से करे, तहजीब से करे. Things are different now, but वो समय में उन्होंने कहा था कि वो अफसाना जिसे अंजाम तक लाना न हो मुमकिन, उसे खूबसूरत मोड़ देकर छोड़ना अच्छा. चलो एक बार फिर से अजनबी बन जाएं हम दोनों.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Sure.
I totally think that's a gold standard. You come to current generation, the things are different. Now it's not like, now people have to do so much, and it's difficult now. I'll tell you why. Because the mode of communication, there are so many modes of communication. That's why brilliant lyricist Amitabh Bhattacharya, who's also one of my favorites, has said that दिल पर पत्थर रख कर मैंने मेकअप कर लिया, मेरे सैया जी से आज मैंने ब्रेकअप कर लिया. But so a lot of people say, oh, it's
actually,
so
I have heard that song several times.
yeah,
Yes.
oh, I actually love it because people think it's frivolous, but it's not frivolous. He's saying that dil par patthar rakh kar. So there is that patthar, which that Boj is still there. It's just that you have to now delete WhatsApp number, chats, photographs, unfriend, block. You have it's a ritual of exiting the relationship, which is now more complicated. But that again, it comes back to the same point that these are different lyricists, poets that have expressed their idea of love. Of course, my favorite would always be Gulzar Sahab. There's this song which he has a poem which I unfortunately don't remember completely, which is called Pyar Ek Beej Hai. And that poem, he's completely talking about different. It's a very long poem. I absolutely love it. But people who will listen to us, they should go to YouTube and search for that poem. It says Pyar Ek Beej Hai. You will find that, in which he's whatever we talk today, he's talking about all of that. That it's not Darya, it's not Sagar, it's not it's so many things. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's that. But the one which I absolutely like is this song in, I think it's from the movie Aastha, where he's saying that labon se choom lo, aankhon se tham lo mujhko. लबों से चूम लो, आंखों से थाम लो मुझको, तुम ही से जन्मूं तो शायद मुझे पनाह मिले.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So see, in one of his interviews, he explained this because it's so. I have not seen anyone else talking about taking birth from your lover.
It's true.
I've never seen. It's like and it made me think, what is he trying to say? So I have someone I know has interviewed him on this particular poem, and he said that he talked about different phases of love, and he said that when you are initially, there's chemistry, then you want to there's physical aspect to it, then if you get married, then slowly husband wife are like, they're taking care of each other, they naak saaf karenge, ye karenge, wo karenge, taking care of each other all the time. The only thing is, in the circle of love that has not happened is, I have not seen your inside of your body. And that can only happen if I take birth from you, and that will complete this cycle. So tumhi se janmo to shayad mujhe panah mile.
Excellent. And I think your last thought on this topic as we come towards the end of the interview, your last word.
Last word would be that I think वही कि हक तो हो पिंजरा ना हो, प्यार वही है, हक है पर पिंजरा नहीं है. What about you? What about you?
Well, I will also I will really emphasize the freedom is very important. The aspect. If I go with about 3 or 4 different pillars of love,
right.
Of course, the freedom will be one.
Right.
Trust will be another very important thing. Respect will be another one.
Right.
And the faith. So if you go by these 4 pillars of love, these are the, once you have these 4 things covered, then nothing can, break love or, any doubt, nothing will come, it is there. And love is also, last word I will say is that it is an energy. The power of love can surpass energy, anything in the world you can think of.
Right.
And so I think it was a good conversation, and then
thank you for having me.
Sure,
I think
absolutely.
we confused. We created more questions, I guess, and that's great.
Well, but that's what exactly it is. That's what love is. There's nobody can define it. You cannot define, because my experience, no matter how much I know about love, is going to be very different than your experience or somebody else's experience.
So I would like to end with this very 4-line poem that I had written. It says that captive in my poems, I didn't let you die. Captive in your memories, you didn't let me live.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sunayana. Beautiful poem, and we should chat sometime again in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm going to